What is happening, YouTube? It's the Shiny. Today we're going to be playing Pokemon Fire Red. Now please, before commenting on how behind the times I am and how old I am, listen to what is different about this. Everybody's got a gimmick, right? You got to make the video interesting. You know how it is. Retention, retention, retention. The way this is going to be different, basically, is I'm going to be taking a peek behind the curtains of the game. Some very, very cool people have taken some of the main series games, such as this one, Red, Crystal, Emerald, all those, and they've broken them down to the code that they were written in by the developers. So now we're not just player and developer. We don't just have the game file. We have everything that they put into the game file, all the code behind it. We can see how the game was programmed and all of the individual files in the game that can't normally be seen. Basically, we're going to be playing through Fire Red, but I'm going to show you how things happen on screen and how they get done. As we play, I'm going to try and point out things that should be noted or things that are important so that we can reference them later and you know what I'm talking about. Please let me know in the comments what you like or dislike about this so I can shape and edit this series going forward in future videos. But for now, let's just jump in and get into this for episode 1 without getting too ahead of ourselves. So, immediately something to note here is this Pikachu intro sequence. It's got a big wall of text. Normally, when you talk to NPCs and stuff in this game, you've got 2 lines of text, right? Your text box can only fit so much. This is one of the rare situations where you've got a big wall of text. It's got something like 8 lines on it. We're going to note later why that's important and why that can change how it's written in the code. Oak is going to, he's going to blabber on about Pokemon. You guys have seen it dozens, if not hundreds of times. You don't need to read this, blah, blah, blah. Pokemon are inhabited. The dude's fluent in Japanese or something. I don't know. Sorry, I'm using too many Zoomer words. Anyway, he's going to ask us what our name is, and we're not going to pick a name. We don't care too much about that. We're just going to hit start and immediately let it pick a name for us. Fire, huh? That's the first time I've seen that. Fire for the name. Okay. And he's going to ask us his grandson's name too, name your rival. We'll just pick from this list here. We'll call him Kaz because that sounds pretty cool to me. As a side note, Gary's sprite is really dope. He actually looks like he's got drip, honestly. It's a good open collar shirt. He looks a lot cooler than we do. Because we pop up and look at, we're stanced up too. We look like we're about to fight or something. That's he does not look happy. I never noticed that. Alright. So, considering this is an actual playthrough, even though we're going to be breaking down the game, I might as well grab this potion in case we end up having any difficulties with the intro fight. And then we can go ahead and head out of the house. Alright, so before we try and leave here, everybody, you know the whole try to leave and Oak stops you. I just want to take a peek around, and we can see this guy and this gal, but nobody else. And I'm sure this isn't news to you. There's 2 people in Pallet Town. It's a pretty small place, but I'll show you in a bit why that's important. So we'll go ahead and we'll try to leave here. And we step onto this spot. My ability to move is immediately locked. Music started playing. I look back. There's an exclamation mark. A sound was played with that exclamation mark. That text box closed itself. I didn't hit A, and I'm turned around and facing Oak. And Oak, who was previously nowhere to be seen, has now walked up to me. So we'll talk to him. Yeah, you need a Pokemon for your protection. And he's going to go ahead and lead us away. We're going to be brought over to this, and the door's going to open before he walks in, and then we walk in and the door closes. Now, we're not actually going to go any further in-game than this. The intro sequence is a pretty hefty one, so we're going to go ahead and jump over to the code, and we'll do a little recap in episode 2 coming back up to this point to talk about more of that code, but for now, we'll just jump into the code to see what happened at everything we just saw now. Alright, so we're over here in the code, and, well, you can see a whole lot of stuff. So let's try to ease you into this. The program that I'm using to view this code is Microsoft Visual Basic Studio. I'm not going to be showing you how to get the decompiled game in this episode. If you'd like to see how to get the decompiled game, there's plenty of tutorials. I could recommend Team Aqua's Hideout, but if you want to see a video from me, I can definitely make one in the future, but we're just not going to be showing how to get it in this. This is going to be more of a script breakdown, and this whole series will be a script breakdown. I'm not going to be doing tutorials really in this series, but if you want one, just let me know, and I can make one. But to ease into this, let's take a look at a different program really quick. We'll go to this one. It's called Porimap. Porimap is used for viewing all of the maps in Pokemon Fire Red or any of the programs that, or I should say the games that you're working with. You could view Pokemon Emerald as well. It just shows all of the maps in the game. So immediately, I'd like to point something out. So as you saw earlier, we walked around and I said, nope, there's nobody here. But you can see in the map here, Oak is right here plain as day. So the question is, why don't you see him? Well, to figure out why you don't see him, every overworld NPC, they all are an object, and they have this parameter here called event flag. And this event flag, you can see this one is called Flag, Hide, Oak, and Pallet Town. So its name kind of gives away why you don't see him, but it doesn't exactly explain still. In order to fully explain, we're going to have to go through the intro sequence. But basically, an NPC will be invisible if their flag is set. So if you enter a map and a flag is set and that NPC has that flag, they're not going to be able to be seen. If the flag isn't set and you enter a map, you will be able to see them. So looking up here, we have these T files. These are called triggers. Triggers activate when you walk over them. If they don't activate, it's usually because they've already been deactivated or they're waiting for something else to happen first so that they can activate. In this instance, when you walk over these, they activate this script that's defined here, Oak trigger right or Oak trigger left. Looking at the code, we can see Oak trigger left, Oak trigger right. Here's what they do. Immediately a lock all. A lot of scripts, when they don't want you to move or do anything, will start with a lock all. It means you can't move, you can't press start, can't press select, anything like that. And then both of these scripts set a variable temp1, either to 0 or 1. This is going to be called later down here, so I'll be able to explain better what it does when we get down to there. But just know for now, left sets it to 0, right sets it to 1. And then they both say go to event script Oak trigger, and that's this one down here. And looking at it, we can see, okay, there's a delay. Usually they like adding delays just to make things flow better. Everything tends to look nicer when delays are placed here and there. And then we have that play BGM music Oak. So that's play background music, music Oak. So that's why the Oak music starts when you step onto there. And that's the first thing that happens. Before anything else happens, that music started playing. And then we have message Pallet Town Oak text. Pallet Town text Oak don't go out. This is in this other file we have. This is our text file for this map. And then Oak don't go out. That's where he says, hey, wait, don't go out. This /n here starts a new line, and this $sign lets it know that's the end of the text. This whole script, it lets the game know, okay, you have a script starting, but we're starting with this dot string instead of any sort of command like these are. So the game knows, okay, this is going to be a text script that'll be referenced by something else. And then after that dot string, the actual string itself in quotation marks. So back here on the script, after he says wait, don't go out, we have wait message. So a lot of commands after they happen, there will be a wait command after just to make sure it finishes and that something doesn't start in the middle of it. So they have a wait message for that message to end. And then another delay. And then, like I said, that message box closed itself. So I didn't hit A. I just turned around and Oak said, hey, wait, don't go out. And then the message box closed itself. And they likely did that for immersion because immediately after is when Oak comes up to you. And it'd be pretty weird if Oak said, hey, wait, don't go out. You know, in the context of the game, he's trying to stop you from leaving. And then you had to wait for an A press. That would be odd. So they just have it close automatically and he starts walking up. So after that message closes, it does apply movement, so that's letting the game know you're about to apply movement to something. You're about to make something move in some way. Object event ID player, that's you, the player character. And then common movement, walk in place faster down. So normally right here would be a movement script. You can see an example right here, walk down, walk right, it's telling what movement to be done. But in this case, because the movement we're doing is so simple, one single movement, they have a lot of these common movements already made, so they don't have to rewrite the script over and over and over. They store this somewhere else, and then they call it. In this case, it's just for us looking down. And then afterwards, wait movement again, another wait command just to make sure it finishes, and then play se underscore pin. That's play sound effect, and then se underscore pin is the exclamation mark sound effect, and right after is when they do that exclamation mark movement. So they put the exclamation mark above the head, and that's actually a movement command, is making that exclamation mark. And then more waiting, more delaying, and then right here is why Oak appears when he is not normally visible there. Add object local ID Professor Oak. Local ID Professor Oak is set up here. So they say equal local ID Professor Oak to 3. Well, what is 3? If we go over here to Portimap and click on Professor Oak, he's the third object placed in town. So this man and this woman were the first and second objects placed in town, and Oak was placed third. So this script is saying, hey, take the third object that we placed in the map and give it an ID of local ID Professor Oak. When we refer to local ID Professor Oak, we want you to do stuff to the third object. In this case, being Professor Oak, and the sprite they set, Professor Oak. So if we go back down, we can see, okay, we're adding in Oak. That's why he gets added in right here when he's normally not visible. So regardless of the flag being set, they're now saying put him on the map. And they put him on the map off screen because they don't want to break your immersion and have Oak just teleport on the screen. So because they put him off screen, they now have to figure out how to move him on screen. So we have call if equal. So call if equal means we want to call another script based on the next thing we're about to look at and what it's equal to. This is that var temp1 that was set earlier. And as you saw, left set it to 0, right set it to 1. So they're saying if it's 0, he's got to enter left. If it's 1, he's got to enter right. What that means is if we go ahead and we're going to add an object here, and we'll give it the look of red to help you understand. So if you're here on the left, now it's saying, okay, if you've walked onto the left trigger, he needs to walk up here. But if you had walked onto the right trigger, he needs to walk here. So it's saying based on which one you walked on, we have to call a different script because him walking here is a different set of steps than him walking here. This has more movement if you're on the right. Then another delay, and then a message box. Oak, grass, unsafe, need mon. They usually name it pretty aptly so you know what it's being talked about. And if we look over here, grass, unsafe, need mon, we can see it's unsafe, /n for the new line, and then wild Pokemon live in tall grass, but now we have a /p. So we noted earlier in the intro sequence that wall of text had about 8 lines, when normally there's only 2 lines. We can see here /n/p. /n is a new line. /p means a new text box. So every other is going to be /p. Every other is going to be /n. Unless it's the end, then they do that $sign to say that this text is over. And the way this differs in that intro, if we go to the intro file here, we can see this is that wall of text. And it's all /n's until the $sign because it's got so many lines. But normally you wouldn't have that many /n's in a row. You have to do it NP until you're done. So back on the scripts here, we see that one was closed automatically too. And then another delay. And then again, it's calling if equal what that var is equal to, because it's got to figure out, okay, is he leaving like this? Or is he leaving like this? Because if he's over here, he needs one more step left. If he's here, he just needs one step left. And then he leads you down, and you end up right here at the end of the movement. Now, since you're not actually moving on your own, you're locked up, and it's doing a sequence, they need to tell the game, okay, we got to open this door that they're about to walk through. So there's an open door command, and then 1613. What does that mean? Well, if you can move Oak up here, we can see 16, 13. He now has that value. That's his X and Y coordinates. So it's saying open the door that's located at these coordinates, and then wait for the door animation to finish, because we want that door to open all the way up before we're going to have them walk up to it. Because otherwise, if we have them walk into it while it's opening, Oak could potentially like walk into the door when it's halfway open, and it would look weird, and it just breaks your immersion, because the whole point is the game is supposed to immerse you. So then after that, they have them walk in, and then they close the door, and they wait for the door to close because they just want it to look good. Personally, I think it could have been, the door could have been open or closed. It doesn't really make a difference, but they wanted the door closed, so they set it to do that. And then you walk in, you're both in, and the door is closed. So, you know, you're both moved up, door's closed, you're inside. Now imagine that they're disappeared. And then it sets a variable map scene pallet town Professor Oak's lab, as well as a variable for map scene pallet town Oak. So map scene pallet town Oak is actually the one here. So the script for these was that Oak trigger, but the variable is map scene pallet town Oak. So when they set the variable equal to 1 now, when it was 0, that means whenever you walk over it, it's going to activate. But now that it's equal to 1, it's not going to activate when you walk over it again, because they've already done this sequence. They don't want it to activate again after you walk over it. You're going to be in here, you're going to be doing your thing in Oak's lab, and then you're going to leave. There's no way you're getting out again, and having this to activate again is not, you don't want it to go again. And then the map scene pallet town Oak lab, that's when you get inside. This one right here is the Professor Oak's lab, so it's telling this one what to do. You don't want it to activate when you walk through it at the moment. And then they're setting the flag to hide Oak in Pallet Town, so again, they're making sure he doesn't appear there, because that object event is always there. You can go through the rest of the game, and Oak is still going to be placed right here. They got to make sure he's hidden and doesn't do anything and isn't interactable. And then they're setting a flag don't transition music. So this flag is kind of special because they're playing Oak's music right when he walks up. So when you walk into his lab, they don't want the music to transition to Oak's music. They want it to wait. They want it to be still this Oak music, this whole da-da-da-da. You know, you're doing something, something's happening. They don't want it to just start playing the random background music. And finally, to end it off, a warp. Because since they're forcibly moving you and Oak here, it's not like you're actually walking into this door and using this warp that's placed here that would normally warp you into the lab. It's just them moving you forcibly and opening that door forcibly. They're not actually using the warp. So they need to tell the game, okay, now we're going to warp to this map. And they choose the map here as a parameter, and then afterwards they give coordinates again. So you can see 6, 12. So if we double click this warp to go into Oak's lab, you can see the lab right, or sorry, the warp right here in the lab right in the middle is at 612. And then a wait state, which basically just means like wait until everything's done. And then every script, unless it's a script that returns back to another script, it's a release all, which means it stops locking up your movement and locking up your ability to press buttons, and then an end because it's the end of the script. But actually, when a warp happens, this script no longer continues, and no script happens where you warp. So they need to tell the game to start running another script after you warp. So we can go over that in episode 2, the script that'll start auto running because you warped in here. But otherwise, that'll be the end of this episode, and I really hope you guys enjoyed. And again, please just let me know in the comments what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, if you felt like you learned something. I don't know, just say whatever you're feeling. It's a comment section. But again, hope you guys have a good one.
Make sure to subscribe, yeah, keep it lit, so legit, you don't want to miss the shiny